difficulty, and it gets to also fed out. So, like I was saying, Ellis gave an eloquent presentation of the problem we face in our country in terms of drugs, illicit drugs in the country, and what the laws are doing about that, what the courts are doing about that, the issue of police and rule of law. And these are multiple issues we have, but that does not mean the country is totally lost. But it means that we have to hold our lawmakers feet to the fire too, to make sure the laws are implemented as it should be, and our law enforcement officers should also do the work as they should. Now, here we are today discussing this issue. We have the guest today. Ellis will introduce that guest, Mr. Emmanuel Savice. Ellis will do that. But again, always remind us this is the day that the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. No matter what happens, God remains God. And we'll also be looking at the issue today of Councilor, the former Chief Justice, Councilor Gloria Musu Scott, who is entangled in some legal issues right now in the country involving the murder of her niece right in her home. And the police has announced her and three others as the culprits of that crime. Police feels that they have reason for that. So we will look at the police video and see why they feel that Councillor Scott and the three persons are culprits for this crime. So, Alex, welcome. Your place is hot. My place is also, but not too hot. The weather is beautiful. The breeze is blowing a little bit. We enjoy the breeze. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that your place is too hot, but welcome to today's program.
Yeah, welcome and welcome to all of you viewers today. And let's do welcome. This is the Gracious Hope Live podcast, and our special guest here will help us make sense of what is going on in our country regarding our justice system. He's a strong supporter of justice, and he personally experienced the effect of all that is going on. Particularly during the Civil War, his niece was raped and killed. And so he has a very strong passion of bringing war crime court to our country, given the fact that people need to be held accountable, the perpetrators. And so with the pleasure here, we have our special guest. He is Mr. Emmanuel Savice and Lucha CEO. And we'd like to say welcome to our program today. And we'll be talking about these myriad of issues. He just went back out again. I think he's trying to set up with his video to come in and out. But he will be helping us make sense of some of these myriad of problems that we face in our justice system. We want to have a functioning or effective justice system that will dispense justice to every Liberian, irrespective of your social class or your station of life. Justice for all. We all must be treated fairly and equally before the law, because the law exists to adjudicate cases that should bring relief to families, to individuals, to the community, and to society as a whole. So we know that God is a God of justice, and Jesus said in the book of Luke that, yes, God will bring his justice. He will bring a justice. His justice will be dispensed to those who will be at fault. That is the culprits. And this is what we face in our country today. And so as we look at some of these myriad of issues facing our justice system, we must also participate as individuals to talk about them, and to see how we can find a solution. We'll talk about the problems, like I enlisted all of the issues that we have, but how can we wrap our head around them to bring some sense of sanity into the lives of Liberians? Reverend Deddeh?
Exactly. In a question, at least I've asked myself over and again, and maybe you might have answer to this question. What is the problem? Is it the laws we have or the implementation of the laws we have? Now, if it is the laws we have, then the legislature will have to look at these laws and either retool them for the people to understand and adhere to these laws. Now, if it's that the laws are not being adhered to, then the judiciary system, the law enforcement agencies will work harder to make sure these laws are enforced. So I'm thinking, what is our problem? And then what do you think is the problem? Is it the laws or the implementation of the laws?
Well, both. Because your past can affect you if you don't manage it well. If you don't take care of your past, or overcome your past is going to haunt you. And that's why you see some people experience trauma, and they have that old tape playing ahead. Maybe you were a child growing on, somebody say, "You're beat for nothing. Look at your beat jaw," and calls you up, maybe short and all, and they make fun out of you. So that tape, plays in your head whenever you're not doing well. Yes, my uncle told me, or my dad told me, or my sister told me that I will not be anybody. And some people deal with those emotional or traumatic issues even in adulthood. They have marital problems, they have a lot of other issues, and they are all psychological. So Liberia has not faithfully dealt with its past, the civil war, and all the myriad of problems coming up now in our country, like human trafficking, illicit drugs, and gender-based violence. They are all debris of the past. And so enforcement also is another issue, because we have the security apparatus or the justice system as a whole, and they are not performing up to the expectation of the people who are being marginalized. Then they perceive the justice system with distrust. And that is what's going on here. So the trust in the justice system is somehow diluted to the fact that many cases have happened, or many murders, or many other things have happened, and people have not received justice as they should. Okay, so our guest is back in the studio now, and I'll be glad now to bring on our special guest, Mr. Emmanuel Savice. I would like to say welcome to the Gracious Hope Live podcast. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rand. Thank you so much, Reverend Suah. Really appreciate being here. I apologize. Yeah, I'm not so used to using this app on my cell phone, so I had to switch to my computer. Yeah, but thank you very much for inviting me. This is such a thought-provoking show, one of the best that I've seen in Liberia after reviewing it for the past 3 weeks. Thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Savice.
Thank you.
Now, you are the Chief Executive Officer of LUJA, Liberians United for Justice. You've advocated in the past, you gathered signatures to send to U.S. Congress, emphasizing the need for the international community and civil rights groups to bring about war crimes in our country, or war crimes court into our country, or establish that. And logistics, the issues of logistics, and even gathering witnesses, and a lot of stuff that will be involved in establishing such court, it has been an impediment. And so here we are facing a myriad of problems with our justice system. So from your perspective so far, and looking at our justice system and some of the issues that are going on back then and now, what will you say to the Liberian people regarding our justice system?
Well, we got to keep the faith. We got to keep the faith. I really believe that the problem Liberia is going through is not because we are not capable of financing the justice system. I believe the willpower is not there. We have such a powerful presidency. And if you don't have a president that is willing to carry out the justice as much as it should be, then we have these problems. To be honest with you, I don't think it's a lack of finance, because we have paid warlords more than is required to persecute them. If you understand what I mean. Mm-hmm. Like, we've given those guys more money since they started killing us in '89 to present, even politically. So we got to keep the hope. We need a president that will step up and take justice very seriously. Otherwise, we're going to continue on the path of trajectory we find ourselves.
Yes. Okay, so let us get to the nitty-gritty of the issue right now. Okay, let us talk about the current issue that is going on. Let's get a take here. And we know you heard about the Gloria Musu Scott issue. And as an advocate for justice, do you think that she is being treated fair here?
Well, I honestly believe that some fair play is going on. And that's where I differ from other people who see this as a political stunt. To be honest with you, I have followed the case. I don't understand some of the things that people do when it comes to justice, but I don't see the George Weah administration targeting Councilor Musu Scott. I do know we have a very unprofessional police service. So I don't know if they're capable of doing everything right in order to bring her to justice. Because sometimes a defendant may commit a crime, but you're unable to prosecute them because you violated their rights during investigations. And when I listened to Councilor Musa Scott when she was interviewed, when she talked about using the pepper spray, I remember her lawyer stopped her right there. I didn't want her to comment any further. I think the Liberian National Police is carrying on their investigation. We use common sense to start an investigation. Common sense leads us to the evidence. And what I see transpiring is the fact that Councilor Scott may have held some information back from the police during investigations. And there have been some lies spewed, but not just by the family, but other advocates for justice, that others are responsible for the killing of her daughter or her niece. So I don't want to say there's no fair play going on. I just want justice to take its course. The law should take its course. And let's see how it plays out, because clearly it will be up to the prosecuting team to prove that Councilor Musa Scott conspired to commit murder or hide some information from them, or maybe somebody in your home committed the crimes. But I don't think it's a witch hunt at this point.
That's good. A lot of people have different perspectives and views on the whole, or the unfolding of the whole murder and accusations and counter accusations. In this case, we watched the police tape, not a police tape, the police speaking to the media at the information ministry, and they feel that Councilor Scott and the three persons that have been named as culprits were in a home when the issue occurred, when the murder occurred, and from that investigation, they see no intruders. So far, there have been no proof of intruders in the home. That's why she be accused. But the question is, somebody asked me today, and I want to ask you this question. So if you don't find intruders in the house, does that mean Councilor Scott and the three other persons are the perpetrators of the crime? You think so?
Absolutely not. That's not what it means. But Reverend Suah, like I said, common sense leads also evidences. The police got statements from witnesses in the community. They got statements from those in the house. Councilor Scott is a very powerful woman. You know, she served as Chief Justice in Liberia. You know what that means to us. During the interview, she didn't think that she should interview her children without her permission. They are adults, and they didn't need her permission to interview them. Statements have not been in line with the previous one, and it's not in line with others that have communicated what happened in the home to police enforcement. So it makes much sense for anyone to think that Councilor Scott may know of the perpetrator. If it's not her, if it's not her children, she may have an idea. And I understand your point, because you don't just go charging someone without evidence that they commit murder. But honestly, there are facts that I think the police are looking at. I think you know about circumstantial evidence, and who knows, murder case is really huge. But these are things that I think the police looking at. And the political community didn't do no justice in this case. I don't think the prosecuting team is listening to them. But you know, Jerome Radio cited from A to Z what happened and how the girl died, and it's turning out not to be true. And this is a problem with the justice system. It's a problem with advocacy, because mostly it's saturated around politics, and that's what we need to get out. Because I tell human beings, anybody I meet, Emmanuel Savice is not the best human being in the world. Mr. Reed is not, Reverend Reed, Reverend Suah is not. You know, we are governed by laws. You know, if there's no law, we're probably the worst people that will ever inhabit this earth. So we need to respect the law. We need to let the law take its course. We need to wait for the evidence. We need to wait for trial. We need to wait for what the prosecuting team has, because even the defendant is yet to see the full disclosure of why they are charged.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And you, Mr. Savice, when you look at our justice system, we look at the police who carry out the arrest. You have experience. You were beaten up for advocating for war crimes court in our country, and they treated you badly, and you ended up in a wheelchair. Let us relive that experience.
Yeah, it was sad for me, and I did not understand why that happened, because we have a president in Georgia that we believe did not participate in the war. And in fact, the CDC canvassed on war crimes court. So I was surprised that when we decided to fight strongly for war crimes court, the CDC administration thought that we against them. And just to tell you about what happened, we went, that was not our first time, that was the third time. We have gathered people who need justice, and Liberians that care about justice, victims of the Civil War. We did give petition to the U.S. Embassy, to the United Nations, the European Union, to our own national legislature, and in fact, the executive, which is headed by the president. Mm-hmm. And that's the third time that we were involved in that. And that was the first time during our 3 rallies that the president was at the executive mansion. So the executive mansion would be the foreign ministry at the time. That's where he was. We got to the entrance of the foreign ministry where the president's office is, and we wanted to give our petition to the president. There was a communication that came down that the president was sending someone, and then later on, another communication came that we should get out of the entrance of the foreign ministry. And while we're in communication with securities, there's a guy called Gaddafi. Gaddafi is a former rebel. I still consider them to be rebels because they have not been rehabilitated. Suah S is another individual that was part of the security that day. He's EPS. So as you can see there, these people who security to the president are former rebels or still rebels. And he didn't like the fact that we were talking about war crimes court. So they dragged me in the office of the security booth, and I was beaten mercilessly by Gaddafi and Suah S. They had a blanket to my ear. They were kicking my ears. And then at one point, he put his hand on his gun and went to the window. This Savice guy, I don't know who he's playing with here. And you know, if it wasn't the fact that I was from Canada, if it wasn't a fact that the United Nations was aware of what we're doing, the European Union was aware, I think that day would have been different, because I was arrested. I was taken to the Liberian National Police headquarters, where I was placed in a holding cell for about 7 hours. Representative from the United Nations came, folks from the National Legislature came over. The president's office released a statement that I will be charged. That statement was signed by one of my good friends, who him and I work at the Inquirer newspaper, Solo Calwell, who served as presidential press secretary at the moment, that I was going to be charged. And, you know, after 7 hours, I got a lawyer. The United Nations came over, the National Legislature. I was released and asked to come back the next morning. And the next morning, there was a communication from Canada to the Liberian government of what happened. There was another communication from the Canadian Embassy in Ghana and the Canadian Embassy in Ivory Coast, and then the British consulate in Liberia. And by the time we look, they said we're free to go. And that's how they let me free on that day. And that's how I gained my freedom again, after trying my possible best with those who are victims like myself, who came out to volunteer to be a part of a rally to seek justice, to seek war crimes court in Liberia. So that was the moment. That's what happened. And I was very surprised.
Yeah, you're very surprised. And if you are just joining us, this is the Gracious Hope Live podcast. This podcast is here every weekend. That is on Saturdays. And we are here from 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, and 8 p.m. in Liberia or the GMT. And of course, we talk about a myriad of issues here. And today, our focus is on the dilemma of the Liberian justice system. And we have been talking about some of the systemic weaknesses of the justice system, its weaknesses to have access to justice, the rule of law, human rights protection, and of course, the issue of political interference and corruption. And so these are a myriad of issues that we believe that as Liberians, we need to bring them to the fore and discuss them so that we can be aware and address it. Not just the government addressing it, but civil rights organizations and you listening can be part of the sustained effort to rehabilitate, or may I say, to revamp our justice system. And we all want justice, especially in a country that has a history of war. And please share this link, okay? We'll be right back. Please don't go away. We'll be right back. Okay, so we are back here, and we have our special guest, Mr. Emmanuel Savice, who is an advocate, a very staunch advocate for justice in our country, and he picked his battle very well. He has been focusing on the need for a war crimes court in our home country. Now, Mr. Savice, you gathered a lot of signatures, okay, and submitted them to Congress. So, what is the latest update?
Well, the last time we had a meeting with an individual from Congress, they have received the signature of 305,000 signatures. Without the needed support, we're able to do this. They understand that Liberians in their numbers have signed that document. This is something that they're looking at. They have told us, they've promised us that Liberia will see justice. And this is not far away from what we should be thinking. So I know that justice will come to Liberia. They have talked about the willingness of the present government, the willingness of the national legislature. The American government is willing, the international community is willing. It is based on our own laws that the process of justice has been stalled because most of the legislators don't want justice. The executive don't want justice. And most people in politics, you'll be surprised, don't want justice. It is the ordinary Liberians who are victims of the Civil War that really want justice. So we're hoping that things will come together, and hopefully very soon, we're hoping right after the elections, justice will start to take course, and whatever government that wins this election will be forced to work with the international community to make sure that the war crimes code, the much needed war crimes code, come to Liberia. So those who committed crimes against humanity, past crimes, those who committed crimes or economic crimes, can face justice in Liberia, because Liberia really need that.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Good presentation of what you stand for. I know there's always a beginning, a reason for people getting involved in certain actions in life. Now, I want to ask you, Brother Savice, what brought you into the justice fight? What led you into this fight for justice?
I experienced the entire Civil War, and one of the Liberian mostly expected by the Civil War. I lost my 3 brothers during the war. I lost one of my sisters during the war. In fact, my sister got missing from my mother. She was only 8 years old. So we have not seen her. We assume that she's dead. I remember my mother used to sit and listening to the EAW program, trying to find her daughter. It's a bit of trauma for her, and I know what she's going through. Although in Liberia, we don't care about human lives. We pretend like, it's okay, people can die. And then biblically, we take comfort in God give it and God take it. So we don't think that human lives are valuable. I lived my life with all my brothers. They were very valuable to me. And I'll explain this story to you on the show. I have not said it a lot, and I have not said it on any show, but let me just tell you a story. My sister and I share the same father. During the war, my mother took my sister and I to the Looking Town area where our father lived, so that we can be our father for her to come back to her children. My mother is a mother of 9 kids. I'm the oldest. We were crossing the Jimmy Carter Bridge. So it's called the Stockton Creek, maybe, I think.
Yeah,
And there were Prince Johnson and his boys lined up on that bridge. That bridge separates the Charles Taylor foes from the Prince Johnson foes. So we were crossing, and then we had a single line. And Prince Johnson stood right by the line and yelled, "Hey, you crown man!" And 3 guys looked back. And the 3 guys that looked by, he immediately ordered them off the line. He tied them in front of us, ordered his boys to tie them. We're standing in line, brother was scared. This is my first time to witness somebody being murdered. All 3 of those guys were thrown in the Stockton Creek, and a bullet followed them. And it was a sad event. I was only 12 years old. My sister was 11, turning 11 at the time. And it was really sad. Our mother crossed the Jimmy Carter Bridge. Our father received us. She wanted to go back to her children. She told her children to wait for her right in the house, so that she can be back to them. And when she got to the bridge, Prince Johnson would not allow her to go back. Said, "You come on reconnaissance, say, you know how crazy he can be." And she kept begging that her children are there. She got to go back. And she begged and begged. And he said, "If you don't leave from here, I'm going to kill you." And my mother was forced to abandon her children. And imagine, I was 12 years old. So think about my siblings. Some of them were as small as 4, the youngest one. And 6 months later, we went back. We could see the skeletons of my brothers in the house. I'm pretty sure they died of hunger. It's just traumatizing to think about it. And that day, I told my mother that I'm going to do something about this. And at the time, I wasn't thinking of fighting for justice in the way it should be. As a kid, I thought, you know what, I need a gun. I need to find the perpetrators. Prince Johnson that stopped you on that day, I need to find him. But later on in life, as you get mature, you understand how the world works and how you should fight for justice. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so committed to this process. But when you look at the general picture, there are many who wants to do exactly what we're doing, but they don't have the voice. They don't have the resources to do what we do. So on behalf of the stories of Liberia, people who lost their families, we do this not just for ourselves, but for them as well, because people lost their family in some excruciating manner. And we as Liberians, who God has blessed, will need to fight for justice for those who can't do it on their own.
Yeah, and that is a reality. So the war, left a legacy of impact on the justice system. Even the individuals, the perpetrators of these crimes, have not been held accountable. And so the need to fight for justice, but we still see weaknesses in the justice system as a whole. That is the access to justice. Some people need redress. Some people need protection. And we have a myriad of issues. For example, we see the gender-based violence and domestic violence, and also looking at other justice issues that also relate to the community. For example, the land grab and land disputes. People want justice. They are seeking justice. And so we see that the justice system as a whole, or the judiciary branch of the government, which is the third branch of government, is overwhelmed, apparently, or burdened by these calls or by these reform propositions. So to you, as an advocate for justice, how do you share your sense of empathy for those men and women, Liberians, who are working within the justice system?
And that's the thing here, Gregory. Let's be honest here. Like I said, there's no willpower for justice in Liberia. I think Liberia need enough prison. I think we need enough prison. Let me just share a brief story with you before I answer your question. 2010, I visited Liberia, and we're driving around the Congo Town Road, and there's a guy who overtake us on the opposite lane, and the police stops him. There was huge traffic, and this guy hit the police officer, and the police officer fell on the side of the road. A police officer woke up, and he stood up and said, "I'm going to catch you. This is the same road you pass every day. I'm going to catch you." And I started to think about it because I've had some orientation in Canada. I've lived here for a while now. And I'm wondering, imagine Reverend Suah hitting a police officer in the United States. Imagine what the repercussion would be. You could do that in Liberia because somebody make you mad, and you being a decent human being, you may not do that, but people would do that because they get away with it. So I started wondering. I was with one of my Canadian friends, and he was just shaking his head. And, it was a country of chaos. But let's be honest with ourselves. It is the willpower of the Liberian government. I always tell people, the presidency is powerful. If the president of Liberia, if it's Mr. Alexander Reed, Reverend Suah, if you want justice in Liberia at every level, justice will be given. Now, how many of you listening to us have lost your land in Liberia? Think of where you live. Are you able to see a piece of land and sell it to someone? It's impossible. I have lost at least about 3 or 4 times lost land that I've purchased. These are things that shouldn't happen. If the justice ministry, if they were persecuting those who were carrying on these acts and giving them fair sentences, I believe that perpetrators would not want to commit this act anymore. So it's not about the strength of the justice system. It's about the willpower of the presidency that is way too powerful, that refuse to implement justice in Liberia. We have appointed commissions on land. We have appointed all kinds of commissions to investigate. What we are not doing is prosecuting those perpetrators. Recently, there's a guy with no car, Dr. Lester Tani. You know him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure you've heard of him. I think he's one of the deputies at no car.
Yeah.
He phoned me because there's a land that I purchased behind the German embassy. My wife purchased the land. Somebody duped us off the land and sold the land to a family member of of Dr. Tanny. 7-8 years ago, my wife wanted to take issue with it. I told her, you know what? It's not worth your time. Just leave it. It's not worth your time. The person sold the land to themselves first before selling it to him. They went to court. And this person was right there in Liberia that did the act. Collected $16,000 and another $20,000 for land. And I'll tell you right now, the justice system will not act. So like this incident, a lot of things are happening with the land dispute in Liberia. It's not because the justice system is weak. It's because they choose to be weak. They don't want to implement the laws, because when laws are implemented, my dear brothers, people who commit these crimes, people who are corrupt, they know that we are having a country that is prepared for justice, because justice fixes the economy, justice fixes everything. And they don't want that. Justice is something that they're bypassing. And I tell you, from the Charles Taylor to the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to the George Weah, to every transitional government we have had, they have refused justice on purpose, not because we are not financially equipped.
But some may disagree with you that, well, we have three governments and there are three branches of government, and they are separated based on the Constitution, the judiciary, that is the executive branch, and the executive branch, which is led by the president, and then the judiciary, the legislature and the judiciary. And so because of checks and balances, they do not interfere in each other's affairs. So if you say the presidency is powerful enough to dispense justice, some people will say, well, then you are trying to create a monster presidency. That is a presidency that will become a dictator, which of course Liberia has dealt with dictator in the past, and we don't want that rehash in any way. What do you tell those people?
And Savice, before you come here, because Ellis, thank you for that question, and I was just going to start with the phone. Let me just add the other part to it, okay?
Okay.
Are you calling for the overwhelming presidency that would just get involved in law and order and take the law into his own hands? Is that what you're calling for?
I'm calling for a presidency that will make the national legislature act. We believe that the national legislature should make the president act. And what we don't understand is Liberia democracy is not mature. We think we have a democracy where three branches of government is working. It's the American system, and everybody is listening to each other. In fact, the national legislature is the most powerful. But it is not the case in Liberia, through my experience. First of all, most of the people that are part of the national legislature, who are legislators, are part of the political parties in Liberia. Everything for them is politics. Everything for them is politics. And what drives Liberian politics is money. Money drives Liberian politics. Nobody comes with ideologies that they want to change Liberia. So it's hard, especially for the ruling establishment. Now, when you look at the national legislature recently, using acts that they have been involved in, that would tell you they themselves, the first branch of government, that's what we're taught. And so that's the first branch of government. These are people who are working on laws to pay them forever. These are people who are collecting $30,000 when we got no money, $90,000 three times a year. These are people who are driving $50,000 car in a country whose country budget that has its budget below $1 billion, where majority of people are poor. So if you look at the presidency, I would tell you, when George Weah went to the United Nations and gave a speech for justice and accountability, I was one of the happiest person. When he returned to Liberia and refused a justice question from a local journalist, and I wonder where we were, I saw national politicians clapping for the president as he's making some really big mistakes. Now, what do I mean? That the presidency is powerful. Let's look at the money. Most people get into politics because of money. Let's be honest here. If you want to get rich really fast, Liberian politics is a perfect place to be, because we don't have anything called accountability. So right now, it's the ordinary people that will decide to remove the president or to keep the president in power. It is not those in the national legislature, because the president is the one crafting the budget along with his executive. Now, if the national legislature refused to approve the president budget, what they want in our budget is going to be taken away. So we have a corrupt system, a really corrupt system. And only the seriousness of the president is going to change the national legislature or the judiciary. The judiciary will not change when the president don't want to change. The legislature, all those legislators will not change if we don't have a serious president. Now, you may look among legislators and say, okay, I found a serious guy in Reverend Suah, and I think he can make a difference. You are alone, my friend. You will be bullied. You will not be given a chance, because that's how democracy works in Liberia. It's about money. It's about a powerful presidency. And it's not the kind of democracy control that we see in America or other parts of Africa, like Ghana, to be an example. Liberia is a terrible place, and I can definitely tell you, democracy is not working in Liberia. It is not.
Okay, so just address the other issues, and I know whether you agree or not, the judiciary is often subject to political interference and corruption, and as a result, many Liberians need access to justice, right? Particularly in the remote areas of the country. Now, looking at other issues like illicit drugs, importation of cocaine using Liberia as a route to other countries. And you heard about the latest case, right, involving the huge quantity of cocaine worth over $100 million. The culprits were held to justice. They were held to our court system, and they were freed. Okay, and the government again was charged to repay or restitute the amount of, I think, $100,000 to those who were perceived as defendants. Now, a lot of people, even including the U.S. Ambassador McCarthy, was shocked about that situation, and other advocate groups. Now, so looking at our justice system, looking at illicit drugs, looking at gender-based violence, and looking at political corruption or interference within the justice system, what sort of sustained efforts will you think that will be needed by the government and civil society as a whole, so that we can have a justice system that will be fair and equitable in the eyes of Liberians?
So here's the first thing I recognized. We're just talking about Councilor Scott. She's been charged for murder along with some family members. Now, if you're not a member of the CDC, you're a member of the Unity Party, you're probably upset. And you're thinking this is political, this is witch hunt. And if you're part of the CDC, you're like, okay, at least this is justice being chased. And if you're somebody like Emmanuel Savice, then you see it with the eye that a lot of Liberians will not see it with. So the politics in our justice system is the politics of corruption. Now, you just mentioned $100 million cocaine being discovered. People are charged. Now, you think in a country like Liberia, it's easy to prove a case like that. Look, these people will basically make the kind of mistake needed to adjudicate someone who should be convicted because they are doing it on purpose. The court of law got all kinds of different reasoning. You violate someone's rights during an investigation that may lead to a case being thrown out. I'm telling you, my brothers, and those who are listening, my sisters, the justice system is weak because we don't have politicians that care about justice in Liberia. It is easy for you and I to sit on the side and do what a lot of immature analysis and say, you know what, I think someone was bribed. I think the president may have benefited, or maybe the justice minister benefited. But the truth is, this is a country that killed 300,000 people, and I've not held anyone accountable. You think they're going to hold someone accountable in $100 million scheme? You think there's not an opportunity for someone to get rich? Who knows? Maybe your judge just bought a house in America for $1 million because of what happened. We need to address justice in Liberia. We need for advocates to be serious about justice. Now, we got advocates who today think that one candidate is better and the other isn't. They say a lot of negative things about a candidate. They have a voice in the country. They turn around and tell you that candidate is not better anymore. They send you somewhere else, and they want benefiting. Everybody's trying for themselves. So I always say to Liberians, I'm okay with you addressing someone who stole Reverend Suah Wash while he was down waterside and persecuting him, because we need the Lord to continue running a country. But I don't understand how we are chasing Musu Scott for murder, and then Prince Johnson is serving as senator. I don't understand why Yeka Koluba, who needs to be rehabilitated, is a representative. I do not understand why somebody like Bully, or whatever you call these guys, Haji Chief Krama is dead now. I don't understand how they are alive and not facing justice. That is because we don't care about justice. So many of the cases that you see, the evidence is overwhelming and people are not being persecuted. Just bring us back to why we have not persecuted those that brought the Civil War, that killed over 300,000 people and turned our country in the way it is. Unless we start with persecuting these people and get serious about the rule of law, we will never progress. And I don't see this coming again. I will say the presidency in Liberia has become a monster, and that is why justice is not being prioritized.
We'll come back to that. Let me just buttress Elliot's statement about the money. It was $113,000 that was returned to the former.
Okay.
Yeah, $113,000, and it just according to Inquirer newspaper of reportage of June 23rd, the Ministry of Justice has returned US $113,000 confiscated from one of the four acquitted defendants in a US $100,000 million cocaine case. I just want to make sure we confirm that. But let's come back to you. Savice. This is an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
The first you said the court system is weak. Granted. But then you said we need more pressings. We need more pressings. So that if the court system is weak, who's going to go into this pressing? Because the court system should be able to convict people before they go to prison. So if the court system is weak and we need more pressings, how do we correlate that, Savice?
So here's the correlation. If the court system wants to be strong, there should be an advocate for prison, or an advocacy for prison. We don't have the facility to even keep criminals. Criminals are being abused, or we all know that. We just don't want to look at it because there are more important things that we think that we should look at. Now, if we were prosecuting all these cases, all these small systems that should be working, everybody would be concerned about the law. Human beings are not good people. We still don't believe Jesus Christ did us good on earth. We're still divided over God's plans for the earth. We still don't believe certain things. We are not the greatest of people, and that's why we should look at ourselves to be people who should be governed by laws. So if the Justice Ministry is not asking for a 500-bedroom prison to host 500 prisoners, that's because they don't care about the justice system. That's because they don't care. Look, if you are not disciplining human beings, you are not having a good country. Human beings need to be disciplined. Emmanuel Savice needs to be. You need to be Reverend Suah. Mr. Red, you need to be disciplined. If we're not doing these things, we're not going to be able to look at justice in the way it should be. The system is down. I started this show by telling you that we pay more money to those who have committed crimes than what is required to persecute them. If you look in Nima County right now, Prince Johnson got a school that is worth about, I think, $6 million. And he owned that school. It belongs to him. He was only a senator. He's only a senator. His salary, I've been told, is around $15,000. His lifestyle may even cost around $25,000 or more. But this is the man who was able to build a school. Look at Sir Joseph. Look at Thomas Fowler. These are people. The government cannot build schools. The government cannot build colleges. The government cannot build universities. But these are people who are serving within government, getting paid from government, bribery from government, and they are able to achieve these things on their own. Now, where is the justice system? Why are we not looking at what these people declare? Look at the presidency we have, for example. And let me tell you about the weakness, one of the weaknesses of the justice system in Liberia. President we have, before he ran for president, declared that he's got 50,000 in Chase Manhattan Bank. He also declared that he has about $150,000 in property. President we have, when you look at his liabilities, in whatever he disclosed, he was worth $50,000. In 8 months of George Weah's presidency, he was able to build 50 duplexes. Those condominiums are modernized. He built his house on 9th Street by bringing the other one down. Now, you see corruption so clearly. Who is acting? Where's the justice system? Just because he's the president, he's not above the law. But nobody's acting up. What would the justice system say? The president is coming up with the next budget. It tells what Reverend Suah is going to be making, what Mr. Red is going to be making. So everybody's just like, you know what? This is a place where we all should just come and survive. We shut our mouth and let these things happen. So we need more pricing. We need to make our laws strong, and we need to make sure that people are going on record for what they are doing. And just back to the cocaine case, I'm not going to mention name, but I'm telling you, there's somebody in Liberia who became representative, after they were accused of selling the very same substance that is illegal, who obtained his money and supported the CDC to get the power. So this is interesting, my brother.
But if you say the truth, what do you call the person's name? I mean, that's
let us not
I don't have evidence of Reverend Suah, but I throw it out there so that those who have an idea can understand. I don't have red shoes, my brother.
Okay. So we are out of time here. We know that our country has also been making efforts when it comes to transitional justice, efforts to address the legacy of the Civil War through transitional justice processes, including the TRC, which was established for the purpose of allowing the victims and those who participated in the war to express themselves and also rehash the past and then reconcile. But that effort became a fluke, and there was $1,000 spent on that. Progress is slow in the justice system, and we realize that, but there's a need for greater accountability for past crimes, and we all agree on that. So looking at our complexities and the critical issues of the justice system, we know that it is deeply rooted in our country's history and the ongoing challenges. So it requires every one of us to address these issues through sustained effort to strengthen the justice system, to promote human rights and gender equality, and address the legacy of past abuses. But it was great having you here, Mr. Savice of the Liberians United for Justice, LUJA. And what is the status of the organizations now? Do you have any upcoming plan or anything in the future for now? Just to complete as a wrap up here.
Yeah, we're gathering in Liberia by the 12th of July, so I'm heading to Liberia very soon. Our next course of action will be taken. We are due to have an executive meeting tomorrow night. We don't want to give up. We want to keep the momentum alive. We understand there's election time, so we want to give chance to the process. And we are hoping that the next president will consider justice, and Liberians United for Justice and Accountability would like to again engage the next government, even if it's George Weah or Alexander Cummings or Joseph Yuma Boyka. Those are the three contenders right now. We would like to continue engaging them and engaging the international community like we've done in the past.
You have Tiawan Gonglo too, though. Tiawan Gonglo is also.
And I love Tiawan Gonglo. If I had a vote to cast, it will be for Tiawan Gonglo because he's strong on justice and accountability. So I really respect him. But I'll conclude here by saying in Liberia, a show like this with this kind of pedigree is not the kind of show that Liberia embraced. Anything of real true value is not because we are not great people. It's because of the kind of education we have, the mindset of the people, and we've got to work on it. That's why somebody like Tiawan Gonglo is not making any waves like he should be. and that's why I've not heard about the show that you guys conduct that is so mature. The pedigree of the show is on top. I've listened to the maturity, to the views, the analysis, and you'll find a lot of people going somewhere where some gossip is being spewed, and that's the mindset that we will need to change one day.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Savice. It was a pleasure having you, and say hi to your family. You got beautiful daughters and your wife. I saw you with your daughters in a vehicle on your profile, Facebook profile, and you guys were singing, and she kept saying, "Daddy, where's the direction? Where's the direction?" Say, right there, right there. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, that's
Good.
what
That's good. So he's a family man. He's a family man. That's good. He's a family man. That's good.
Of
Yeah,
course,
I am. God has
and
blessed
he's
me
a
with
man of faith.
three boys, three girls.
But next time you're gonna come back and discuss your faith journey, and because that's part of this platform. Let's see where God has brought you from, but not
I
today.
will appreciate that. I look
Yeah.
forward to that. I look forward
Okay.
Yes,
to
we'll do that.
Okay.
All
that. As
right,
a matter,
thank you. And
Thank you
thank
this
you
is
very
very much.
all right,
Okay.
thank you. And this
Okay,
is the
bye-bye.
platform where we invite our guests and to talk about marital issues facing our country, and we look at things that we believe are germane to your own well-being as a believer in Christ and also a citizen of our country. Make your voice heard right here, and this podcast is here every weekend. Share our link with your friends, your families, and your loved ones so that they can be a part of it. Just click that share button. And of course, they will be a part by listening to the replay. You can get our app on the phone. It is all free. You can download it from the website. You can download it. And of course, you will have access to everything else. We'd like to say thank you so much for joining us. And my name is Pastor Alexander Red. And of course, Reverend Suah S. Deddeh. From him, he will be here tomorrow to deliver his message at 5 p.m. Central Time, his Bible teaching. And of course, I will be here also by 3 p.m. as well. Until then, we'll say thank you so much. And we will be back here again next Saturday.